Ethereum's Shanghai upgrade enabled withdrawals of staked Ether for the first time. Now, you were integral in creating Nansen's public dashboard, which tracked the update in real time. What stood out to you? What did you notice immediately happened in the days after that staked Ether became unlocked?
So one thing that really struck me is that everything kind of went smoothly. Like the block was announced beforehand, and like you could really see immediately the withdrawals rolling in, and people actually getting access to their ETH that has been locked for some people for years, actually. So there was like a really big uptick in that. And then you could also see that at first there were a lot of partial withdrawals. So what that means is that people would have to lock 32 Ether in the deposit contract, and then it would accrue rewards, but they couldn't withdraw any of it. So the principal, the 32 Ether, and all their rewards were kind of stuck there, and they did not earn any additional rewards for their already earned rewards, so it would not compound. So all these gains that they had in that time were basically idle. So many people were eager to basically do the partial withdrawal of the accrued rewards and also restake them, and that is also what we saw.
As of last week, more than $35 billion dollars of Ether, which was frozen in the long term staking program, could have been withdrawn, and yet holders of only $1.67 billion worth of Ether initially requested to withdraw their crypto. That's according to data from Nansen. What does that show you?
That does show me that actually people are still quite confident in Ether as an asset and in the chain and the future of the chain. And also, a lot of those people that did withdraw, a lot of this were initial, as I already said, the partial withdrawals, and a lot of these were from actual providers. For example, liquid staking providers like Lido, which are heavily incentivized to restake their rewards to keep sort of their yield competitive. So this is one thing, but I do think that not all is over since the full withdrawals, the withdrawal of the principal, there are several queues and mechanisms in place that it will not get available immediately. So there is still, um, I think, like around 900,000 ETH waiting for the full withdrawal, which just hasn't gotten through all this exit queue and all these processes yet.
So, dashboard data today shows staked ETH deposits are now outpacing withdrawals. As of 11 this morning, there were about 21,700 ETH withdrawals in the past 24 hours, while deposits reached about 84,500. What does that signify?
So I think a lot of the new deposits that came in, like of course some of it was because now you can actually withdraw, so people are a lot more confident in staking their ether since they are sure that they can get it back on relatively short notice. And on the other hand, a lot of these were people that were basically restaking their rewards, which have been idle all the time. So they are trying to basically up their yield and restaking the withdrawals and compounding all of it. Um, but I think in the coming days, it might be that there will be another wave where this balance will become net negative as a lot of these full withdrawals, also of the principal, will become processed, I think, in the next around 20 days, 18 to 20 days.
Okay, so let's talk prices. Ether has been trading higher since the Shanghai and Capella updates were completed last week, with Ether trading around $2,000, its highest level since August. What do you think this signifies?
I think on the one hand, obviously it's called upgrade for a reason because it is inherently good for the ecosystem and for Ether. So I think it is good news that this happened, especially in the long term. As I said, in the next 18 to 20 days, there might be like some fluctuations and a lot of people get their principal back. But I think in the long term, it is definitely really good. As for the recent price movement, I think some of it was for sure due to Shanghai, but coincidentally, I think a lot of other assets like Bitcoin also reached new heights. So um, I'm not sure if all of it was really contributed to Shanghai, but I think it's definitely a good thing that this happened.
So it seems like Ethereum is always in development. Following the merge in September, which of course was key in the transition to proof of stake, developers started focusing on the next big update, Shanghai. Now that the Shanghai upgrade is complete and the blockchain transition to a full functioning proof of stake network, what's next? What are people paying attention to now? I mean, last week, Vitalik Buterin, Ethereum's co founder, said scaling, so the process of making transactions faster and cheaper, should be prioritized. And in November, he released an updated roadmap of issues that need to be tackled, including what's known as the Verge, Purge, and Scourge. What do you think is top of mind?
So I think now, as we have the Shanghai upgrade and the successful switch to proof of stake, um, I think indeed Ethereum will probably strive to make transactions cheaper, as you said, but I think primarily also, as Vitalik hinted at, primarily not on the main chain, but for everything built on top of it. So especially for layer twos like optimistic rollups and ZK rollups, which also had like big stuff coming up. I think a lot of these things, these improvements to Ethereum, will especially have layer twos in mind, as these are probably like the real scaling solution to Ethereum. So, for example, one upgrade that Vitalik mentioned is proto-dank sharding, or which will come later as an upgrade to proto-dank sharding, dank sharding, which will basically allow rollups on top of Ethereum to become way cheaper.
Why was creating a dashboard like this so incredibly important? What was the impetus behind this?
So what we always strive to do as a company is to basically create transparency. Since for blockchains, one big thing about it is that all the data is there. Just many people have difficulty reading it, and for good reason. So we basically strive to make all of this data available to everyone. So this dashboard was built for investors, for everyone that is basically interested in what is happening, but doesn't have the means on its own to look into it. Um, so we wanted to build a dashboard which shows what is going on behind the scenes and what is actually happening, so people don't have to rely on rumors, basically.